Hello, Global Theater. My name is Gerry Fialka. Today is July 29, 2025. I want to thank Rob Grant and his amazing podcast, I'm Probably Wrong About Everything. Please subscribe. Also want to thank the Finnegan's Wake Group from New York for introducing me to our today's guest, Chris Fuller. Where in the heck you calling in from, Chris?
Manhattan, but more specifically, Roosevelt Island.
How cool is that? The first part we did was February 18. It was a real joy and pleasure reviewing that. And we left off on this question, and we didn't get the answer from you, but it really instigated a lot of great discussion. Why do humans ignore the hidden psychic effects of our inventions, even though the artists are broadcasting them to us? So we talked deeply into that question, but I didn't quite get, why do we ignore them?
Well, that's the because the artist has done their job. I mean, Gerry, I know that Marshall McLuhan does quote this quote from T.S. Eliot, that is that the words of the poem are just the piece of meat that the burglar has selected to distract the watchdog of the mind.
Wow.
Meanwhile, the poet is actually getting in behind enemy lines while we're distracted by these ornaments of the words, right? So that is why we're distracted. That's why we miss it, is because the artist has done their job. It's all part of the design, all part of the artifice of art.
Yeah.
It's the art part of artifice, right? Is that the ornamentation that's placed upon the surface of the language is that choice piece of meat that was selected to distract the watchdog of the mind.
Yeah.
And that meanwhile, the poem gets in and does its job via rhythm, via the sound of the words.
Yeah.
Poesy and prosody combining in a way that allow for the mind to shut down. I think in songwriting, we were speaking earlier about songwriting, it's even more to the point, because the melody is such an effective piece of leverage that the writer has against the mind, the subconscious mind, right? So this is something that was very understood by, the early bardic Gaelic bards, the idea of the early alphabet of the Gaelic bards is just like in the Wake or whatever, that we have at least 7 different meanings for a given sound, a given syllable. Each letter of the alphabet has a different effect upon the subconscious, So whatever the words are, is the skill of distraction, the most rhetorical, the highest of all the rhetorical skills, according to the original schools of rhetorical thought. Distraction is the most important.
Yeah. And
ultimately, I'm glad we kind of veered into this quickly, because I've wanted to talk to you a little bit about McLuhan ever since our last talk. I think that the reason he quotes this, of course, is to say that it's more obvious that the medium itself is taking effect in ways that are so beyond anything that you can actually comprehend in your conscious, in the coherent sense of now, right? It's really something that's taking place so deeply that you don't even realize it, but it's stretching into a psychological reality that you don't understand at the moment.
Yeah. Pretty deep, dude. It's usually me quoting McLuhan to the people I'm interviewing. When they quote it back to me before I do, I'm like blown away. I have to ask you first, what's your history of reading McLuhan? Do you just pick that up recently, or have you read McLuhan and remember that? What's your history with McLuhan? Like, when have you read any of his books or read about him?
My history of him is largely through people like yourself, with conversations about where he's coming from. Right. Since that time you and I spoke, I've made my way through about 3/4 of the way through
of understanding media.
Understanding media. Yeah. And yeah. So,
which is it's as unreadable as Finnegan's Wake.
Well, this is what I was hoping we could have a chance to discuss a little bit. I had some ideas, some things I want to talk to you about.
You can ask me anything you want.
And another way that it's similar to the Wake is that it's one of these things where once you're kind of involved with it, many social phenomenon sort of remind you of it constantly, right? Just the way that, like, it's almost becomes embarrassing how often you can relate something back to Joyce or back to the Wake. And I'm glad to have some people in my life like yourself. Maybe I could reach out to and talk to you instead of people in my social orbit who don't want to hear about it anymore. Versus, and I think McLuhan is similar. That, like, the more you're exposed to it, especially currently, it's pretty. The things he says are fairly mind blowing as far as the how much he's describing our world to us.
Oh yeah, that's John O'Connor. He's well, I don't want to say it, but he's sort of like a savant Wakean. He's in the New York group, and his sound's always sort of fussy. I interviewed him last week, dude. He goes to AA meetings and drops Wake lines all the time, and all the people are like, "What are you talking about?" He goes, "There's a
meeting,
there's a Finnegan's Wake." Like, he's curing people of alcoholism with Finnegan's Wake words. Now that is,
yeah. I don't know if any specific friends of mine might be listening right now, but some people go to AA and then they end up becoming marathon runners.
Look at it.
Or they end up reading the Wake or something. Or
but the camaraderie, the community that the Wake is amazing. And once you get it, it's like lifelong friends. And
somebody recently, I think in one of our New York groups, was asking during the discussion, who do you think that Joyce might have supposed his readers to be?
Yeah.
Who do you think that he thought they would be?
Yeah.
And people said, that he understood that he would be famous, that he understood that he would be studied and all those things. And, or maybe that they would be Irish, or maybe or they'd be into modern literature. But I think one thing that we can assume is that he assumed that his readers would need to rely upon each other just a little bit in order to understand this, and I think that in that way it can really be seen as a foundation for community building.
It is.
Even if it's through reading somebody else's work or something.
It's like the bumper. Moon Zappa wrote an article in Newsweek a couple months ago, and she says, "I saw some graffiti in the valley and says not all cults are bad." and I studied the word cult then, and I realized Mallarmé, the symbolist, said music is a cult. So, anyways, here's the thing. Go to music for a second. Bob Dylan.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
They asked him, what do you think of what about the 60s? And he goes, I don't know, read McLuhan. Bob actually said that. Michael McClure took McLuhan to his first rock concert. It was Bob Dylan. He said some amazing things.
Do you know which year that was?
No. I should know that year. But here's the thing. When I'm trying to get to this root of you're saying it's almost the job of the poet to be a distraction and not to tell their art direct to you. It's not an agenda. I'm going to tell you something, how to live a good life. It's almost like they say it askewed a little, and then it's the work. That's why do humans ignore it? Because the artists are doing their job to skew it a little. So I like that. But I wanted to go deeper in that. Bob Dylan said in a line in a song, he says, I'm reading James Joyce. And they asked him, why did you put that line in the song?
Which song is that?
I have it written down. You can look it up, but it's some song in the 80s or something. He says, I'm reading James Joyce. And they asked him, why did you write that song? Why did you write those words? And he says, because they rhymed with the next line. That is a great answer. That goes along with your. I'm going to stay askewed even when I'm uh, telling you what that's again what Robert Frost, when they asked Frost, what's this? Could you explain this poem? And he goes, you mean you want me to say it worse?
Yeah.
That goes along with what you're saying, that the job of the artist is to be the intent of the race, but not to broadcast it directly. And that is another poet, Auden, who, paraphrasing, he says, the mystery of art is that we don't know if it activates or pacifies us. So we don't know if reading the Wake is actually keeping us from being good human beings and not going out and making the world a better place, or is it helping us to be more of a community and make the world a better place? We don't know that, but me and you feel it, and we go, yeah, I'm going to keep going, and I'm going to read the Wake for decades. But we don't know that. That's the great thing about art. There is a mystery. We can convince ourselves that art is worthy, but we can't prove that art does anything.
Well, could you prove it? I mean, well, if proving it is, as you say, to go out into the world and do something,
yeah,
then and say I was inspired by that, then if that's the way to prove it through some measurable thing like that, then that's one thing. That's one thing. But then at the same time, I mean, this act of distraction, is not as just simple as that. You know, it's also the idea of using myth or tapping into the idea of absurdity to catch one's attention, and distract one from the reality of the world, to see a vision of it in which that might turn things upside down. I'm thinking right now of the work of the painter who did Obama's portrait, Kehinde Wiley, right?
Yeah.
He paints people of color in a very they themselves might have sort of an urban surface to them, urban clothing or whatever, but then there's a very regal stature to them. Like they'll be presented on in almost a Napoleonic setting. And he did a sculpture in Times Square as well, where it was almost as like a guy in a hoodie, urban kid with dreadlocks and everything, on top of an equestrian setting, on top of a horse, right? This is the myth of something that has never occurred, but which confirms the psychological and emotional truth of our understanding. You know, so that's the thing. I mean, art has this way. I think maybe we were talking about this last time. The whatever it is, like wealth, religion, nationality, race, even all this stuff. It's all myth. It's all mythic. I mean, it's all a myth. You know, and but art has the potential to take the myth, flip it upside down, and build a myth within. A myth within the myth that ends up exploding it all, and even if you then don't go out and join some kind of protest or something. I think like people like Andre Breton, people like that, they talk about the surrealism movement and the early idea of it, that the idea that there are very small rebellions that are taking place inside your mind, and that explosive force of the juxtaposition of impossibilities that don't line up with reality, but that hold up to emotional assessment or psychological truth. The awesomeness of Black people, as opposed to the reality that they've been subjected to, is called into the stark contrast through Kehinde Wiley's art. You know, and so in that way, we hold ourselves up to some responsibility for recognizing it, I mean, maybe we don't go out and march or something, but we are responsible after that point for recognizing it, and we can choose how to live our lives.
Yeah. That mythic thing reminded me of George Clinton, Parliament Funkadelic. He says, he goes, black people are still picking cotton, but it's out of the pill bottles now. And, he brags about smoking crack with Sly Stone in the new Sly Stone documentary. And I know I love him dearly. And I did
a heavy line.
I did the longest interview with him ever. And I'm honored because he is mythic, beyond mythic. And he's constantly flipping the myth within the myth. And he gets away with it. And that's cool. But I'm still intrigued by the first question I asked you, what's the best thing for a human being? And you said several things, but you said we talked about crises a lot. And I think that crises, conflict is the human condition, but I don't want to admit that. I want to have the power of positive thinking. I will admit it, but I want to direct the power of positive thinking, because it's like this. If the artist is doing something that's agenda ridden, which is how do you erase that? Then if it's a distraction, then does he get the user to develop better critical thinking skills? So this is what I'm trying to get out of your point, because I didn't mean the act of distraction is the only reason why we ignore the hidden psychic effects of the artist, revelations. But I think it is an important part that no one's ever brought up, is that's the job of the artist to distract,
to be destabilized as well.
To do both.
Whatever equipoise that you're find yourself positioned in is illusory.
Yeah.
And even on a physical level, it's a complete delusion.
Yeah.
Yeah. The idea that we're sitting here so comfortably is a complete delusion.
Dude,
several. Look, I'm not going to name any names, but several people in my life suffer from motion sickness. Right? Like they get in a car, and it's like they have trouble with it, right? But it's like, if you really consider the reality of the crazy contortions that we're going through, that we know that we're going through our understanding of reality, it's crazy that we delude ourselves into thinking that we're sitting still.
Yeah. Funny, because Pascal says all the world's problems could be solved if a human could just sit still in a room and be quiet. And he's just propagating solitude and being in silence. But I want to get back onto our script, because things will come back around full circle.
We have a script. Okay.
Yeah, I have a script. But I wanted to insert a quick diversion, because we met through the wake.
Yes.
And this is one of the wake questions I'll get to in like part 6 of our 22-part Netflix series here.
At this rate, it will be.
Yeah. If you could just go along with the game, it's a stupid game. How much percentage do you get the wake, and how much percentage did Joyce get the wake? So just cliche kind of saying, get it. Now, the guy the other day who's Ukrainian Wakian, really smart, he wouldn't answer it. He wouldn't give me a percentage. Most everybody has said, I get it this much percent, and Joyce gets it this much percent. I'm not asking you to be humble, but I'm just saying, off the top of your head, what number would you put 0 to 100%? Because you said the word get it. Like if the user of the art gets it. So that's why I'm inserting this one really quick.
Yeah. Okay. I think Joyce and I get it the same amount.
Which is about what?
70%.
Oh my God, you are good, Chris. Thank you. You know,
Can I explain my
oh,
position?
please do. Thank you for playing.
So, one thing that I've gotten, I don't know, I wouldn't say I got in trouble or, but like people like said no, no, no when I said this once in the call, on the Finnegan's Wake, the New York group. I said
You said something, and they said that's wrong.
no, yeah, they kind of there was a little bit of a pushback, sudden pushback.
Yeah,
and I said that like Joyce is definitely one of the most elitist writers of all time.
oh yeah, that's great.
And the reason I said that is not because of how necessarily of how obscure it is or how smart he tries to come off or whatever it is.
Yeah.
But you were talking about cultism earlier. It's kind of like, in order to really fully understand it, you'd have to have read everything that he has read.
Yeah.
You might even have to have read the letters that he knows will eventually be published. If as he's writing the book, these letters that he's written, that he's referring to, haven't been published yet. So he's assuming that in order to get this, you will eventually have to read. If you really want to fully get it, you'll have to eventually maybe read everything I've ever written, even my letters.
Yeah.
And then uncover it. And that way, it's the most elitist thing. So I would say that maybe I get it 70%. I haven't read every single shred of every single thing.
You're good at saying that, Chris, because people tend PJ at Sweeney's Pharmacy, which is the best wake group I attend, said, oh, Joyce got it 95% and I get it 98%. But here's the thing. Anybody in a Finnegan's Wake reading group is already getting it 80% because you're involved in it. Yeah. So that's it. But they usually go, oh, I get it 10% and he got it 90%. And they want to think, oh, he didn't even get it 100%. That's the beauty of it.
Well, it's remarkable once you get kind of involved with it a little bit, like by being part of a group or something, or even reading about it or whatever. If you're not part of a group, over time you do start to get it to a point where something that before seemed pretty opaque now doesn't seem so bad. That's true. The reason I say that Joyce also only gets a 70%. Is that as much as he has said that he could vouch for every word, every syllable, even probably, and understand his intention. I also think that part of the whole design of the wake is to leave the door open for us to graft our own interpretation upon it. My own experience of life is something that enriches the meaning of the wake, and that's, I think, I think one of the lessons that Joyce wants us to take is that this act of writing as an expressive form is really only likely to ever get about to that level, 70% or so, because I think that these are things that also like Beckett and other people take this up. That like essentially we can't really perfectly describe our whatever image we have in our minds, whatever idea we have that we want to express. You can't really perfectly express it in a way where you can guarantee that the other person is going to receive it as if it came over a telegraph or something like that. It's always informed by the listener or reader's interpolations of your idea. And I think that Joyce designed the wake in a way to suggest to us that he's aware of that.
Your presentation at the New York Wake was excellent, but really, I thought the best one was that woman who said, "Here's my poems," and they were inspired by the wake. And then it took
these are the Zen poems.
We're not there to regurgitate. We're not there to regurgitate all the. I mean, we can regurgitate all the intertextuality. I learned that new word from a like all the books about wake. We can regurgitate that till the cows come home. But how is it going to take you farther, like Echo Awakein got from Newton, that you stand on the shoulders of giants and you look further? You take it farther. But I'm not scolding, it's all good. But you quoted you quoted Peter Quadrino several times. Have you ever met him in person?
No, we've had a few email exchanges, and I read his blog. I love his writing.
Good. Because he is one of those guys who, if he doesn't know something about the wake, or Peter Chris, whatever his blog is, those guys know where you can find it. Yeah. If you ask them a question, they're like such great, and they're good, grounded human beings.
Well, it's a funny thing about the wake. I mean, it's kind of similar to what we said a moment ago, but where we're over, what we said over time, things at one point seem confusing, sort of don't seem so mystifying anymore. Also, in a funny way, it's as long of a book as it is, it doesn't seem that hard to find the spot you're looking for a lot of the time. I find it's a funny aspect of it. Like if I'm trying to find a certain quote, somehow I'm able to find it pretty easily.
Oh, you can find them fast.
Yeah, I don't usually resort to the online stuff of whatever it is.
You mean by just flipping through it?
Flipping through, you can tend to find the thing, And,
that's like a crystal ball, or a No, it has that feel. Okay, the two other things you evoked with what you just said, and it was brilliant. I appreciate it. You teach is what something we'll get to, and eventually, Milan Kundera in Unbearable Likeness of Being. This is why I love writing, because the character.
I never read it, but go on, please. Okay.
Yeah, but he says this is why I love writing, because the character that I'm writing about can go further than I can. It's like, right. How can you take a pen, write a character, and that character can go further? That's what you're saying is what Joyce has created, not a book. He created a living organism. Or
a living organism and a world that is going to sustain itself. At the very beginning of Ulysses, in the first chapter, of course, right? Buck Mulligan and Stephen Dedalus are at the Sandy Mount Strand, their little apartment that they share together, and they say, of all the Martello towers, ours is the omphalos. Right?
What's that word mean?
That means the navel, the belly button. It's Greek for belly button. What Joyce is saying is that at this very earliest point in the novel, I'm severing the umbilical cord, and I'm sending this world off to be itself. This is
wow.
He said he is. When I said earlier, he's the elitist need for us to read his letters and things like that.
Yeah,
as he wrote to Nora regarding. I can't remember if it's Giorgio or Lucia. I think it was Lucia being born. He wrote to her saying, "Oh, this child of your body, just as Portrait was a child of my mind." Right. This idea of having a child in your mind, the male equivalent of giving, this kind of giving birth through artistic force, right? Artistic artifice, right? That, and at the beginning of Ulysses, when Buck Mulligan says that of all the towers, ours is the omphalos, and he says, and this is Joyce saying, the world is now another bubble. I've created a little bubble within the bubble, just as Dubliners is a book within Portrait, and Portrait is a book within Ulysses, and Ulysses is a book within Finnegan's Wake. It really, they're all bubbles within the bubble of our world, which is a bubble of some inside some other world. Just like the atom is within the cell, and the cell is within the body, and the body is within the planet, and the planet is within the solar system, and the solar system is within the galaxy, and the galaxy is within the universe, which is what Stephen says in his flyleaf at the very beginning of Portrait, where he says, like, we go from universe, you know what I'm talking about at the beginning of Portrait, where he says, from the universe to Klongos to Europe to Ireland to Klongos, Stephen, and then he reads it back, and then goes on to muse to himself about the outer boundary of the universe. He mentions how, what is it that's out there?
Yeah.
He says, could it be a wall? It's not like it's a brick wall or something, but maybe a thin. I think what Joyce says, it's a thin line. Maybe at the outside, at the outskirts of the universe, that's like a circle that goes around, just like Finnegan. Just like Finnegan, it goes around. You know,
it's a center without margins.
Yes.
Yeah. But here's the, that why Frank
Zappa, no circumference, a center with no circumference.
Yeah. That's why Frank Zappa put Joyce as an influence on his first album, because Frank said everything he does is the big note. Whether it's an interview, a film, a song, it's all part of one big note. And it's similar to what you just explained with Joyce doing. So here's the other thing that McLuhan did mid-career that you evoked. He updated the medium is the massage, the medium is the message mid-career to the user is the content.
Yes. Okay.
And so that you really got that. So now the next question after
that's what I think in our with regard to describing our world to us.
Yeah.
That's really where it's at.
Yeah.
Especially what to me was one of the gems so far of the book. I'm only 3/4 of the way through. Basically, I just finished the chapter on the typewriter, which was also fantastic. But I think one of the gems of the entire book was the discussion of the narcissist narcosis.
Oh, that's you got it, man. That's
right. And that this is what you're saying.
Oh yeah, totally.
That this idea that you are the content.
You're the content, yeah.
And then once you fall into the lake, just as Narcissus did, the narcosis of melding the medium that brought yourself to you.
Yeah.
It's like the medium brings yourself to you.
Yeah.
And then you fall into it.
Yeah.
And you are as narcotic a state as Narcissus was. And that I just thought that was such a beautiful way to expose all of that. I had trouble. You said earlier it's difficult as Finnegan's Wake. I had trouble with it a lot. Even as you see, I have the second edition. Introduction to the second edition was helpful.
Oh yeah,
but I had trouble with it until that chapter. That chapter was the one where I realized what he's saying.
Yeah,
is really beyond the catchphrases such as the medium is the message.
Yeah.
I mean, you get
let me explain that for a second, because it's really hard to get McLuhan. It sounds elitist, but I've been lucky, and I've studied with some of the really close people to McLuhan, and it's hard to get McLuhan, but it seems like it's easy because Woody just had him in a movie and he says funny lines and everybody mentions that line. Every fifth guest on Charlie Rose used to quote McLuhan. I mean, Joe Rogan quoted McLuhan. Everybody quotes McLuhan, but here's the main thing I wanted to tell you in what you just said. One is the medium is the message, the medium is the massage, is not that the form is more important than the content. Most people think he's saying the form is more important. No, he's saying they're both important, but because you don't pay attention to the form, I'm going to tease you and say the form is more important. So Marshall was teasing people and they took him seriously. He's not a theorist. But they say medium theorist in Wikipedia, and he would go, oh, leave that. I want to tease people to believe that my percepts are concepts. And the other one is he said that everything we invent, technology, is the most human thing. So that we think, when we invented words, when we invented a toothpick or a cell phone, that is the most human thing. And so when we invent it, we cut off something from our body. So we invent the wheel and we cut off our legs. And that's that numbing effect called narcissus. Narcosis means numbing. So it's a heavy thing that you're going through reading Understanding Media. I mean, to read the best book you probably could read is The Letters of Marshall McLuhan, where he literally, and there's another one called Understanding Media, where he explains what I just said, where they took 10 of his speeches and transcribed them. So it's an endless trip to go into McLuhan. And he literally said, you can't understand me unless you read all of Joyce and all the Symbolists. And most of the hardcore McLuhanites don't get Finnegan's Wake. So you get the hardcore McLuhan people talking and they're not even getting it because they didn't read Finnegan's Wake. So anyways, it's a fun thing that you delve into it, because Eden was the one who got me to do a McLuhan thing at the New York Wake. And it was funny because I mean, I couldn't believe we had.
Yeah. I love Eden so much.
Yeah, and we had fun with that. So here's the next question on our script. After
okay. I wanted to say some things back to you, but okay, go on.
No, go ahead if you want. Go ahead.
Well, with regard to what you were saying about the way people take it. I mean, like, and I think people think that this concept of the medium is the message, is they think of it as that's not so hard to get. But then some of the examples that he mentions in the book, when I mention them to people, they I feel like they think that it's kind of sort of seems almost like they can't quite get down with it. Like for instance, the idea. Another gem for me was his notion that that the light bulb is a medium with no content.
Yeah, no content.
And that this is one of the most subtle but effective mediums that we could really point to.
Yeah.
Because there is no content. And because of what you said a second ago, that people have ignored it. People ignore the medium. Right. So if there's no content and they're already ignoring the medium, then it's completely invisible.
Yeah.
Even though what a light bulb does is makes things visible.
Yeah.
But because there's no content, but it's a medium and people ignore the medium.
Yeah.
It becomes invisible.
Totally.
So
you're getting it. You're almost doing it backwards, Chris. You're getting McLuhan because you read the Wake first, and you heard McLuhan all these years. Once you got the Wake, and now you backpedal into it.
I mean, when he says that, look, like because of the light bulb, you could either go to a late night baseball game, or you could read a book by your nightstand.
Yeah.
Ultimately, neither of those things matter at all. Within the grand scheme of things, your little shit that you read by the bedstand, that doesn't matter. And whoever won the baseball game, that does not matter. What does matter is that the light bulb extended your capacity and society's capacity to keep on functioning into the night.
The total.
It's completely ignored. But that is the most important factor of all of those things, is that the fact that life extended into nighttime.
Yeah.
And that maybe you bought a hot dog while you were there or something, maybe
but I could, that when you say most, that's like understatement is a gazillion times more effective than exaggeration. Like when we say it must or it always and all those, there's variations, because what if you bought Finnegan's Wake and read it under your light and it changed your world? The content was involved with the light because that book did matter. Most of the books didn't matter. I get what you're saying, but there is these weird exceptions because what you said, let's really quick, the two people that did what you just said, light bulb, no content, in a way was John Cage with 433. You sit at the piano and don't hit any notes. In Duchamp saying the artists of the future will only have to point. And that's Joyce. He says, how'd you write Finnegan's Wake? He says, I didn't write it. The people sitting at the coffee shop wrote it. So he said, I just pointed at all these ads and placed them together in Ulysses, and then you do whatever you want with it. So,
well, yeah, and I mean, even in that example, I mean, like, you know, like in The Shining, right? When Jack Torrance, he doesn't want Wendy to come into the room at all while he's typing. You know, stay out while I'm writing. But that's not the way Joyce is. Joyce apparently wanted everybody to be in the room with him while he was writing. And by that same, like I said, like we want to talk about being elitist. Maybe I would have. There's no way I can possibly understand this stuff. I would have had to have been in the room at the moment and overhear what Noah said to somebody else, you know, and that got incorporated. I mean,
okay, have you ever seen Room 237, the documentary on
yes.
Yeah. Okay, there's a line in that film. I interviewed 8 people involved in that film, and there's a line in that film, and you'll love it. The one guy, I forgot his name, but he's a kind of like a alt rock star, and I says, what's your music like? And he says, it's like Jim Morrison waiting for a bus. And I says, that's a pretty good. But I said, in the movie, in the middle of that movie, he literally says out loud, why did James Joyce write Finnegan's Wake? I mean, that movie has so much. It's 13 Kubrick films in one film. But this thing again about no content is amazing, because I learned from my best teacher of Joyce and McLuhan that there's no content in Finnegan's Wake. And I'll say that all the time at Finnegan's Wake reading clubs, and they kind of freak out. They go, what do you mean there's no content? And it's because it's language about language. It's Stanley. Stanley has a mantra in New York Finnegan's Wake. It's about the sound. He knows there's no content, but he doesn't say no content. But my favorite line ever was this great woman in the Austin Wake group with Peter Quadrino, Sherry. I kept saying there's no content in the Wake. And about 5 meetings later, she goes, Gerry, aren't you going to tell us there's no content in the Wake tonight? So by repeating it in a mantra, they start repeating it back, because there is no content in the Wake.
And yet, I mean, right. If it's all sound and if it's all light, then there's really no content in light. It's just a light bulb is just light. It's electricity. It's electricity and light. And I mean, that's the other thing that I think is the other thing that probably within McLuhan that I think people probably don't quite ever hear and don't quite understand what he's saying, is this idea that there was the mechanical medium, and now the electrical medium.
Oh yeah,
and that as you alluded to this earlier, Gerry, but like the idea that every medium is an extension of some humanness, some humanity, and if it's the wheel, that's an extension of the foot, perhaps, and the clock is somehow an extension of both the hands and the feet together.
Yeah.
Right, because the clock is a wheel and the clock has hands. Yeah. But if electricity, however, the most obvious correlation is that it's an extension of the nervous system.
Yes.
And that in that way, just as if I touch my palm like this, if I really push hard, I feel that pain immediately. And every extremity of my being, I feel that pain immediately if I go there.
Yeah.
And if I pull a hair, it's so painful immediately.
Yeah.
and that is the electrical medium that that McLuhan points to. And I think this is another aspect that's kind of lost on people. When we say the medium is the message, they kind of maybe get it. But I think this is another side of him that I don't think it typically gets said. The first one is almost a McLuhan cliche. This is now the other thing, is that the electric medium, the electrical mediums, media, the electrical media are worth our consideration because of the reality of what he's describing in our world. I mean, it's funny, the certain terminology that he uses, I think also has sort of a mollifying effect. I mean, he mentions how
what's mollify mean?
To sort of it has a calming effect, even though I don't necessarily think it should be calming. When he mentions that a move, this is a difficult thing. This is one thing I think is difficult to get, but I want to hear your responses. That the idea of a move toward electrical media essentially has an imploding effect back toward tribal existence, away from literate culture, and back toward immediate culture.
Immediate,
right? Back toward tribal understandings.
That's
now in a way, I think he sort of says that there's this suggests the possibility of a global consciousness. He kind of goes there, but I just want to hear from you on this. I think that as much as I think he's predicting our world to us, describing our world to us, this global consciousness that seems like it could be some sort of Aquarian cohesion or something, actually has resulted in even further fragmentation. I mean, it's even further dissociative of each other. Like the dystopian reality is even greater. I mean, you got it. That's all I would say, Gerry.
You went full circle in so many ways, and it was beautiful. So first of all, the extension thing. Oh no! First of all, go to this one. Captain Beefheart said that music is just black ants crawling on white paper. and then the extension thing is, it doesn't have to be tangible. So philosophy might extend consciousness, but it's not just a tangible senses. So the one that, when I ask movie makers, what does the cinema extend, what humanness, they'll go the eye, memory, blah blah blah, whatever. A poet said, what does the pen extend? Oh, tears. Marshall said, movies extend your foot because you're traveling. So it's
an evolution of the wheel. It's an evolution of the wheel.
It's not just traveling. Then your calming effect thing was Mailer. Watch Mailer and McLuhan. There's a million YouTube videos on McLuhan that you can get a lot deeper by hearing him talk. Sometimes he's more of a talker than a book writer. He's not a very good book writer in the world of books. When you have an aesthetic on here's how good books are. My friend who wrote for New York Times said when he read McLuhan to be in our group, he says, this guy's a poet. And I says, yeah, but see, he's disguised as a media theorist, as a poet. But watch Mailer and McLuhan debate.
Once you get his voice,
you get it. You have a good sense, Chris.
Once you hear it. Yeah.
I love that you got into McLuhan through the wake. This is amazing. So you get it. So
through you, Gerry. Through you, man. Through you.
Well, I whatever, but I mean, it's how we first connected was through the wake. So then that led to it. But Mailer and McLuhan have a 30-minute debate on YouTube. And Mailer is so hyped up. And it's exactly what you said. Marshall goes, yeah, the medium's the message. And he's so cool and calming that Mailer just comes off as like a stark raving nut. And he's not completely, he's a smart guy. And then here's what to get to your thing about tribal.
Yeah.
What happens is when they started saying the word social media, I said, well, isn't spoken word social media? No, social media, as defined by Wikipedia or whoever, cultural critics, is when electricity came in. So that's the telegraph. So that's what you're talking about, that when electricity came into communication, telegraph, that's when social media started. And that's where we change. You talked about global
Like the center margin, the center versus
center without margin.
Yeah.
It's called museum without walls.
Yes.
City
the brothel without walls.
Yeah. And it's called City as Classroom. Marshall's book is called, being an educator, you might check that one out. The City as Classroom.
Oh,
that's his book on education. But here's what it is Tahil Chardin did the noosphere. And it's like this sort of, he's a philosopher, and he said there's this sort of like cloud around the whole world, this thing called the noosphere. And that's what you called global consciousness. But what happened was Marshall, I'm going to send you this thing. I just found it today, where I got to talk to someone who knew McLuhan, where he updated. Marshall basically is from 1940 to 1980, 40 years, 22 books. Mid-career, he's updating all his earlier things. So most people don't know he updated Medium is the Message or Medium is the Massage mid-career. But that's all right. They get it a little. Global Village, he got from Wyndham Lewis. That's the first half. Then he updated it to the Global Theater. He says it's no longer the Global Village. So that's why you're saying that's maybe what we're more into. You form your identity by shooting TikToks of yourself or using your cell phone as a mirror. So that is, and that's what we exist in this world.
And at the same time, and in that way, these like social media videos of myself or whatever, or even what we're doing right now.
Right now,
the collapse of private and public space is, collapse is another word for implode, right? Which is what McLuhan says repeatedly. Right?
Yeah.
This another form of implosion that's not so easy to see all the time. It's not so easy to necessarily feel it even. But the stress in the background upon the subconscious mind might be great. You know, to like, if I just said to you, we're living in a world where the private and the public space are collapsing upon one another.
Yeah.
You would go away and be stressed by that idea. This is a stressful notion. This is a stressful notion that there is no real defining line between private and public, and yet that is collapse, as I say, is a synonym for implode, right?
Yeah.
And that while McLuhan says that the mechanical media maybe lead toward explosion, the increasing speed, acceleration of electric media leads toward implosion. And
implosion, man.
Implosion is collapse, and collapse is crisis.
Yeah.
And so I
think, and if you talk
back to our original idea that crisis might be the best thing for us.
I says that, then we go back to the rules of Chris Fuller. Crisis is good.
Well, yeah.
But it's flipping. Here's the main thing that Joyce learned, that Joyce taught McLuhan. How do you turn a breakdown into a breakthrough? a rejection into a redirection. What do you turn a crisis into? Revelation or enlightenment. So it's how you turn that, how you flip it, and you just don't wallow in it.
Well,
And
the ultimate breakthrough. The ultimate breakthrough is what we all know is true.
Yeah.
And that is the thing that we all know is true, but is really, really hard to say.
Yeah.
And to still be taken seriously. But you know it's true. is that the real breakthrough is to break down.
But that's
that when you could break down, if everyone could break down together,
yeah,
then that would be the breakthrough. Because we would understand that your sense of you as Gerry and my sense as Chris, myself as Chris, that these are social constructs that we've adopted from an early age.
Yeah.
But that really, we know that that's not really the way it is. I mean, you know, that's not really the way it is. And that the real breakthrough would be to dissolve the ego, to dissolve that defining line that we were talking about earlier, which maybe Stephen Dedalus thinks is the line that's the circular line around the universe. On a smaller scale, the ego is that line that goes around your brain that defines you.
Yeah.
It's a self-defensive mechanism because it says I'm defining myself as opposed to everybody else.
Yeah.
But
well,
it's an illusion. It's an illusion. If you could break that down, that would be the breakthrough.
Yeah. That's so heavy, Chris. There's so much you covered there, but I wanted to inject a couple really quick. Louis Buñuel says, I'm for anyone who seeks the truth, but I part ways when they claim they found it. So that's a pretty heavy one, because I have a whole tangent we can go on truth, but I don't want to go there. I want to go back to the breakdown one, because the best example that I give to people, or one of the good examples I give to people, is how do you turn a breakdown into a breakthrough? Iggy Pop says, my band was so bad at imitating the Rolling Stones, we invented punk rock. So that's like, they were just so bad, they go, well, this works. And so that's the whole thing is leads to the next question. Right. 1 hour in, we get into the next question. This is really good, Chris. You break all the molds of I had to go back.
I was looking forward to our talk,
I can't even go because we got 3 more minutes. I can't listen. Did I tell you this, that we're on telephone? And here's how it's connected to the wake and Kubrick. Telephone, that's what Zoom is basically, is first shown at the New York World's Fair in 1939, the year the wake came out. In 1968, it becomes a reality to a lot of people because they see the movie 2001: A Space Odyssey, and the guy calls his daughter from the spaceship to wish her a happy birthday. Right. That's pretty heavy, that whole full circle. Then Stanley was asked, why did you make 2001? And he said, to convolute McLuhan, to twist McLuhan. And he invited Marshall to a pre-release screening. And within 10 minutes, Marshall fell asleep. And that's Harry Smith learned from Bruno, that the purpose of cinema is to put you to sleep. But he probably woke up and he saw the whole thing. So here's the next question, Chris. Do artists
one of my favorite movies, by the way? One of my
favorite movies. Do artists have moral obligation?
Sure, but only to their own moral compass. I mean, I think it is in I mean, the ultimate thing is for the artist to be true to themselves. yeah, they should be moral to that.
Yeah.
To that ultimately, everything we said before is part of the responsibility of it. I mean, I think one thing I've thought about also with regard to McLuhan recently is like with regard to the typewriter, for instance, when he says how because of the typewriter, basically the distance between writing and publishing have been fused into one, and you're almost immediately published, right? Once you've written on a typewriter. And in today's world, this is some way that people express themselves. I mean, they can record some songs at home and then announce a release date and make it available on whatever platform that they have access to, and then manufacture their entire release and their publication. And I think, as McLuhan says, just as in the day of the telegraph, the call girl could become her own procurer and madam. Yeah. The musical artist could also become his own publisher and producer. And in that way, people can definitely just ignorantly bastardize their entire notion of artistry and be blinded by the medium. Like they're completely unwittingly made into actors of the medium. I think another gem within McLuhan is this notion that the humans are just the sex organs of the machine world, just as the bees are just the sex organs of the plant world. Whatever. Artists can become the sex organs of the media world. Yeah. I mean, if we're willing to say that nobody wants to point to YouTube itself as the media.
Yeah.
Just the way no one wants to point to the light bulb as the media, and instead focus on the content.
Yeah.
Especially if the content is yourself, where I've decided that today is the release date of my new album. And today I'm going to tell all my friends about it. And whether they tune in or not, that doesn't matter. Today was the release date of my new album, and the idea that I'm not noticing that YouTube is benefiting more than anybody, just I think bears out the entire message, and I think that I mean, can we just acknowledge that like the intangible quality of art that has proceeded in the last 20 years or so is actually like, a vivid example of everything McLuhan is saying, that like the implosion toward caring more about the medium of an MP3 versus whatever the song it was that you might have downloaded on that moment. Compared to like all these records that I have, compared to that, where the medium is another medium, somehow in which somehow the content still seems a little more powerful, and less forgettable.
Ritual. It was a ritual to buy an album, look at the album cover, read the lyrics, and listen to the whole thing. That was ritualistic. I mean, now
it's as disposable as can be now.
Yeah, I go to NPR Tiny Desk. I listen to a new artist for 20 seconds. Okay, it's horrible what I did. I'm a good example of what you said. When YouTube started 15 years ago, something like that, I saw on the front page of New York Times, you can watch a Parliament Funkadelic video on your computer. I'm like, holy fuck. And I had collected every P-Funk album and never their films. but I was collecting every film clip of Zappa. I says, I got to collect P-Funk films. And so I didn't even go to, I didn't even go to a computer and see it. I just told my friend, there's this new thing called YouTube. He called me back a week later and he says, dude, you shouldn't have told me that. I went down a rabbit hole and I couldn't escape. I says, okay, that's it. I won't go to YouTube for 10 years. So I stayed away from YouTube for 10 years, but I immediately made a YouTube, and it's called How to Make a YouTube Video That's Not a YouTube Video. And it's just me talking about Duchamp and all that crap. And then whatever 12, 13 years later, now I'm addicted to YouTube. It's horrible. I hate my addiction. It's
isn't what you said, this is the narcosis, right? I mean,
it's horrible.
Yeah,
it's really horrible. And then I'll learn, there's a new McLuhan thing, or there's new this or that, and I like it, the good things that it does, but the negativeness of it is really bad. But what you said was Yoko, who you can see Yoko and John talking to McLuhan, and it's not really good, because you can't hear Yoko's words very well, but it's worth it. Somebody's got to transcribe it. But she did an art piece.
I would be interested to hear what Yoko
said. No, because she did an art piece. She came out of the Fluxus art movement, the extension of Dada and Surrealism, and she did an art piece that I love. She made up an art gallery name in New York, and she made up an art show and sent the press release to the New York Times, and they listed it. Yoko's new show called This is at this gallery. The gallery didn't exist, the show didn't exist, but the listing in the New York Times was the art piece. So you see, that's effects.
Yes.
That's effects precede causes. This is another thing. If you really want to get deep into Marshall, there's two things: effects precede causes, and sense ratio shifting. Those two things are immense in Marshall world, and especially to the weight.
I get what also like what you said just a second ago about her piece in the paper being the piece itself.
That's the art piece.
That was the chapter in Understanding Media about the press is very provocative, especially with regard to the way to Joyce. Because McLuhan's idea that the newspaper, for instance, is a mosaic presentation of the novel. And that each article is basically the novel kind of reproduced in a mosaic form that destabilizes the idea of a point of view and substitutes for it instead this idea of human interest, which is the collective idea. And that it may seem shallow, but it provides this mosaic sense, and that there's nothing more timely than that mosaic of that given day. If you were to read the newspaper from 1 week ago, and nobody told you that was a week ago, you wouldn't realize it. You would still read it and think that was today's news. It doesn't matter. I think that's one realization that people don't often have, is that but it's very, very true. It's obviously true. If you gave me the news from 1 week ago and told me that was today's news, I would have no reason to doubt you. I would sort of just take it as the mosaic understanding of the collective understanding of reality, right? Now, McLuhan obviously knows a lot about Joyce, and he mentions Joyce in that same chapter, but he doesn't mention specifically the chapter from Ulysses that brings us very vividly into our vision, the Aeolus chapter, where it's presented as a series of articles. So what does that mean to you that that Joyce takes the mosaic presentation of the press, places it back into the novel form?
Yeah.
While McLuhan is saying that the press is a presentation of the novel form in a mosaic sense, right?
Yeah.
And I would also suggest maybe, and you can tell me if you agree with this or not, but I think that the prior to Ulysses or so, I mean, the idea of like, it's so commonplace now to read a book where the novel is not only split into chapters, but there's always like a break, right? Like within the chapter, there might be like a little indentation break, an extra return where there's like a break. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Where there's like a break of a line within the chapter.
Yeah.
And I don't think prior to, Ulysses or so, I don't think that was necessarily that common. I think in past presentations of the novel, I think that was not really done. And I think now that is more common. I would wonder what McLuhan would say about that more commonplace action now. It's very, very common now to find a novel where there's this kind of even within the chapter, there's this mosaic effect of splitting the chapter multiply, and what does that say? These mediums playing against each other.
Yeah. Marshall said mosaic writing. First of all, I want to tell you, Chris Fuller, you are an amazing human, because you're what to me is best friend material, because I have a friend like this. I get them interested in something, and then they start teaching me everything I thought I knew back. And it's like this reciprocal thing. Like you like, oh, I'm going to read this book. Now you're telling me all this stuff that I should know. And I have a little, it kind of went in and kind of is sitting there in the back room. And it's amazing what you're doing. And that's why I continually interview these really hardcore McLuhan people to try to get more. What it is Marshall's main mission was to come up with new questions and new metaphors. So he wasn't being an academic, even though that's what he's called. An academic has, here's my theories. Here's my theories. Now read them back to me. I'm going to tell you the theories. Now read them back to me. He was teasing. This is one of his students said it best. He was teasing people to believe his percepts were concepts. So just to inventory what you just said were amazing. Mosaic writing. That is typified in the Laurie Anderson piece of art.
Okay.
He took the front page of the New York Times and the front page of the Chinese New York Times and cut it into strips and wove it together.
Wonderful.
It was a weaving. It was a weaving piece of art. So she's truly a performance artist, and she narrates. She would narrate some movie that's not really good, but it's probably worth skimming through. It's called McLuhan's Wake, and they talk about the tetrad, the 4 questions. Marshall, we haven't even gotten into that, and it's one movie. The extras on that DVD have Edmund Carpenter talking. That's more important. Blah blah blah. Larry Anderson is definitely infected by McLuhan, and what you said was exactly what Marshall said about the newspaper. To go in that, he says we don't read the newspaper. We get into our cup of coffee. And the newspaper is a ritual, and it's like getting into a warm bath every morning. So it's the environment. So the main thing about the medium is the message that people miss. And when you do a tetrad on an invention, is that it's not about the invention. It's not about the newspaper. It's about the environment the newspaper creates, and it's not about the intention of the newspaper. We're trying to explore, how does the newspaper shape our behavior? We can know that informs us, oh, Marshall's going to be speaking at Fordham tomorrow. Okay, that newspaper informed me some good information, but he's saying let's also pay attention to the environment it creates and the hidden psychic effects, not the why it was invented. And then he
Yes.
said the newspaper, everybody, people were trying to write the great American novel, the GAN. So it was Melville or Steinbeck or David
Yes.
Foster Wallace or whoever. They write the great
Yeah.
American novel. And he said, you can't write the great American novel anymore because the front page of the newspaper is the great American novel. Now you can in Pynchon and all these guys are Gaddis, they're all Joycean wannabes, they're Wakean wannabes, and they do a pretty good job, but they don't quite get the Wake out again. But they can't, they tried to write the great American novel. I think it's Pynchon's new book's about to come out. But here's the part I like to do. How do you take it one step further? I did it to the great American novel. You can't write it because the thumbnail on YouTube is the great American novel.
Yeah.
The thumbnail is McLuhan's family reveals hidden secrets. That's all you need to read on the thumbnail. That is the great American novel. And so I'm for everything you said. You open up these floodgates of thoughts for me. And the two things I would really quickly just say is go a little into what is called new criticism. It's the guys in Cambridge who introduced Marshall to Joyce. And they're these teachers of a literature movement called New Criticism. So Marshall went to college in England, and that's where he had a big revelation by studying. Well, he was studying with the guys who invented new criticism. And that's like, you don't ask the artist about their art. That's the last person you ask about their art. So all these people want to refer to Joyce said that.
They're the last people who want to be asked about it.
Right, but you can ask them to explain it, and Woody Allen or Kubrick or Joyce or McLuhan can explain their art a little, but he's just the new criticism people were a little saying there's a different approach. And then there's other guy.
But look, as an artist, I'll just say, like, as a songwriter, when somebody asks me, what is that about?
Yeah.
I just want to say, well, you tell me, what do you think?
Exactly. That's user's content.
Can you like stop for a second and tell me what you think? Yeah. I mean, rather than just expect to be given everything.
But they do. Yeah, I mean, that's the social condition of art galleries. You go in and you read a little blurb, you read the back. Yes. I mean, when my wife and I are watching a movie, she says, give me the DVD cover. What's this about again? She wants to read the blurb. And I mean, it's helpful. I mean, I'm a idiot. I don't know how to read. So I like when someone tells me, oh, that's what this is about. Oh, really? Thank you. It doesn't mean they're right or wrong, but the other one is this book just came out. I just did a salon with these guys. You might watch it. His name is Tom Cooper, and he studied with McLuhan, and he wrote about Harold Innis and Marshall McLuhan. So Harold was a guy who turned Marshall onto some ideas on how our inventions shape us. And it's interesting to find where Marshall got his stuff, because, he says, I'm applied Joyce. And he got that from Joyce saying, I'm applied Aquinas. But Marshall got it from several people besides Joyce and the Symbolists. He got it from Harold Innis, and he got it from other people, Yeats and T.S. Eliot and Pound and a lot and Poe. So the funnest thing we do, if you can join us, is it's a little probably not your time, is every Thursday from 8:30 a.m. Pacific time, we meet for 90 minutes reading McLuhan. And Roy used to come all the time, but I hope he's doing okay. But We just read the intro to the first book Marshall published, which is The Mechanical Bride. And you can go online and just get the PDF.
That's what that was his sort of line right before the chapter about the motor car.
The Mechanical Bride is a reference via Duchamp to the car. He says you're married to your car. Yeah, the Mechanical Bride. And it's just really quick. The thing he says is, I think, is one of the most important things Marshall ever wrote. He says, there's a short story by Edgar Allan Poe, it's called The Descent into the Maelstrom. And the sailor is in his boat, and he gets crashed by a storm, and his boat is broken up in pieces, and he's swirling down a whirlpool to his death. And so he says, if the Poe said, the sailor studied the patterns of the whirlpool in the broken boat parts and used it to swoop his way out of being killed by the ocean. He used it in reverse. And he says, we're swirling in an information overload, so we can use it by studying its patterns to swoop our way out of it rather than drown in information overload. And so it applies today completely. We're swimming in, that's what I said this to a Wakeian once. He freaked out. I says, the wake is a satire of information overload. He goes, whoa. And I goes, that's what it is. It satirizes information overload.
Manipian satire.
Manipian satire, exactly. So sorry to go on a rant. Are you more?
No, that's great. No, believe me, Gerry, no problem.
Yeah. Are you more afraid of new ideas or more afraid of old ideas?
More afraid of old ideas. They're much more vivid and much more knowable.
Yeah.
So they're definitely my personal hurdles and obstacles are old ideas that I hold that are actual real obstacles. Yeah.
Can you go? We got 8 more minutes for 90. Can you go longer, or do you want to end in 8?
Whatever.
Okay. Well, do you want to go like 30 more minutes, or?
Sure.
Okay. Just give me an idea. Okay, so
yeah, that's fine. That's fine, Gerry. Yeah.
Okay, just so I know, Chris, can you?
I didn't know what you were going to do.
Yeah. Can you conjure up your earliest memory ever, or one of them?
So I think it's not necessarily that unique or that authoritative necessarily, but I think I've always thought that one of my earliest memories is it's sort of a visual understanding of one of my early childhood bedrooms. I think as I was a baby, I think maybe 1 or 2 years old, I think I can sort of see the room.
Yeah.
More or less, that's it. After that, it's a really good question, Gerry. I think that might be my earliest memory, but that's like an impression,
Yeah.
And I think what is my next real concrete experience of memory is really difficult to say.
Yeah.
After that point, it's hard to say what would be the next memory. I mean, I kind of have an impression of that, but what would be the next memory is a little hard to say. There's a very long period of foggy, murky experience. I don't know. What about you?
I mean, when I ask this question, I mean, I don't, most people say a visual. So that's an amazing thing. They have a visual. Yeah. And some people, I don't even know. I just know there's a Super 8 movie or 8mm movie of me going around a amusement park ride, and I go, well, I don't know. I've asked this question for 40 years to 1,000 people, so it's hard for me not to put a lot of these questions into the context of what all these people have said to me, because then I go, oh, was it a visual? I don't know. I can't recall it. Most people do recall something.
What you just said is, I think, something has a lot to do with what we said prior.
Yeah.
With regard to McLuhan, I think another extension of this media is an extension of our memory.
Yeah.
Into a place that's almost uncanny. It's uncanny in that we can't quite. It's like you almost can't quite claim responsibility for that memory anymore.
Right?
Yeah. It's like I do feel it, but the idea that there have been photographs, the idea that there have been films of myself have reinforced certain memories that I don't know how genuine they really are. It's not that different from the experience of like in Blade Runner or something like that, where like the replicants have embedded memories that make it to the point where they're not even sure if they're replicants or not. And what's the difference really?
What the follow-up question is memory more a curse or more a blessing?
Well, I mean, in terms of the quotidian performance of your social reality every day, memory is essential.
Yeah.
In order to get through that. However, it is also the source of so much pain that it can be. I mean, it's the space of so many wounds that that it is also it's so problematic. I mean, it's difficult to answer. It's difficult to answer your question. I mean, it is essential. It's obviously. However, I mean, like, my house cats probably don't have a real memory the way I experience it. They pretty much they dominate themselves in a way that I don't quite dominate myself. And
Chris, most people answer, is memory more a curse or more a blessing? They go, it's a blessing. Well, it could be a curse. They know that they want it to be a blessing, but they know that it could be a curse. But we want to have it because, people think when you get dementia or you lose, my dad had dementia at the end of his life, and I was like hanging out with him for 8 days. And I was like, this was the best 8 days of my life. I says, Dad, you want to go eat? And he goes, yeah. I says, Dad, you want to take a nap? He goes, yeah. I said, Dad, you want to go to bed now? He goes, yeah. I says, dude, you live my lifestyle, man. Let's just chill out. And then it was like, it was sad, but in a way he was free of worrying about stupid shit like paying bills or whatever.
Yeah.
And he did that for over 80 years or 90 years. It's like, now I'm just going to chill out. So, but we think, oh my God, that's so sad, and in a way,
it's a decline. It seems like a decline, but
it seems like a decline, but is it, but then you got to have someone taking care of you because, you can't just, turn on the gas stove and walk out of the house like my friend who had dementia.
We've spoken about crisis as a
there you go, back to crisis.
And I think that this is a moment where we could say that things get to a point where there's a crisis of reality, there's a crisis of memory, and things couldn't be more unstable than at that point. at that point. To the point where where the person's sense of our ostensible understanding of the surface of reality is completely gone. It's been dissolved, and we see it as a decline. But in their mind, they seem, as you're saying, very chill. They seem very kind of almost calm to the point that we find disconcerting. And I don't know, man. I mean, like, you know, like we were talking earlier about the medium of reading the paper in the morning, and you have your coffee, and you're wearing pajamas, and this gestalt of the entire medium of your experience really is the moment, you know. I mean, and that is the message, you know. That's the message. And when you're untethered from even the medium of your own memory, this is really, I think, what McLuhan is sort of getting at, right? I mean, this idea that there's a lot that's easy to ignore. The idea that your own memory is a medium. I mean, it's hard to express to people who just have no. Maybe they have like just the most cursory kind of understanding of it. Is to say, like, you know, the media doesn't just mean Fox News versus MSNBC or whatever. Media means the clothes you're wearing. Media means whether or not I'm having coffee this morning. You know, all those experiences, media containing other media. That completely coaxial, multiply tethered experience of reality. Where if you were to take the media away, you would realize there's nothing but void. And the void is the ultimate experience upon which we can meditate, you know? And I mean, all of these things add up to that. Void doesn't mean nothing. Void means everything. Void means everything. Void doesn't mean defunct. Void means move forward.
Dude, you nail. Let me inventory some of these things you said. So first of all, Gestalt therapy is huge in McLuhan because it's called figure ground. The figure and the ground is form and content, and he went deep into that. Fritz Perl. So just saying that word Gestalt, just the book that you picked to start on McLuhan, Understanding Media. What Marshall's all about is understanding the relationships. So you went into that, you explained that. He didn't mean just understand what a car does to you. Understand what a car does in relationship to gas stations, billboards, Waymos, everything.
Or the fact that the wheel that the car is based upon, which is a replacement of your own foot, and then the car is a replacement of your own skin. And the foot. And then it creates the city, which is a radial design, which is a recreation of the wheel.
And then, you know, he said, what are you, Marshall? He says, I'm a safe cracker. I turn the knob to break into the safe, and I listen to the ball bearings turn and fall in. So that's what he was doing, cracking the safe, and back to, you know, the wheel. Now, when they said,
and that is also, I mean, look, that's so close to that idea that T.S. Eliot said. Of that the words of the poem are just the piece of meat that was selected by the burglar to distract the watchdog of the mind.
The watchdog of the mind.
And that Marshall is saying that I listen to the sound of the lock as I'm unlocking it. That's the same idea. You know, I mean, that's basically that same idea that, like, the real infiltration of your mind is taking place whether you whether you think you're reading or not. I mean, it's
Or
happening.
not. Yeah.
You know? I mean, like, you know.
The understanding relationships was so typified. They asked Marshall, will there ever be silence? And he said, things don't exist on their own. They only exist in relationship. So if me and you drive to the desert, I swear we could walk for 15 minutes and sit on a rock, and me and you could hear silence. But it's because we heard the noise of the car for 45 minutes and then our feet on the sand for 15 minutes. It's a relationship, because literally there would be sound, but I swear, like when I ride my bike in the morning at 6 a.m., I swear I can hear silence. I'm like, wow. But there is, it's the relationship of what I've heard before and after. The void thing is amazing, because Marshall's, one of his favorite lines was, the gap is where the action is. So what you called the void is called a resonating interval. It's the in-betweenness. And so that's going back to James Joyce. He says it in Finnegan's Wake. Remember to forget.
Remember to forget.
Yeah, it's like, what a line. Okay, remember one thing.
And also, I mean, like, I mean, it's kind of like a, like sort of the digital idea of existence, which brings us down to this binary idea of like 0 or 1.
Yeah.
You know, 0 or 1. Either I can imagine silence or some sort of noise, and anything more than silence is a 1. Silence is 0. Anything more than 0 is 1.
Yeah.
And I think that there's something in what you're saying is there's this bottomless pit in some of that, and that all of that is based on the senses, you know, the sensory experience. Even when your eyes are closed, the rods and cones are still firing in hypnagogic vision, right? So when you're like, there's no real way to shut that off.
Yeah.
And there's really no way to stop hearing. Like, you could experience silence, but that experience of silence is really just the sound of the blood pulsing through your ears, you know, and that when you do hear it, I know I hear it. I know that I hear it, and that there's no such thing as silence, because when you think that you've really, maybe I could put on noise canceling headphones, but I still hear that. You
still hear it, because that's when Cage was writing 433, they put him in a chamber.
Yeah,
and he couldn't hear it. But in relationship, that we tend to want to hear silence, and we do in relationship. So
even there's the patterns that we can't escape. I mean, like the within every closed body, there is the fifth resonance. Within music, we talk about this. The fifth interval within any scale is very powerful. It's one of the natural intervals of resonance within the universe. The depth of scale within the universe, the background radiance of the universe, vibrates upon the fifth.
Wow.
When you're in an airplane, and if you just let yourself kind of meditate while you're listening to the vibrations of the airplane, that wah, 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 that's the fifth. It's always, if we're talking about the note A, we're talking A, B, C, D, E. We're talking about E. You know, this is the fifth. Within the sound of your ears, when you're in a relative state of silence, and you're hearing that high-pitched buzz that is the vibration of the circulation within your ears, that's also a fifth. Every resonance is in that same pattern. So there's no such thing as silence. I mean, you're always you're always bathed in these realities, visually, I should say. It's more confusing. I think you don't see the patterns as obviously as you do or auditorially.
Auditorially with sound. Yeah, when we get into music, I have a whole series of questions on silence. That was amazing, especially the one that Dylan said. But there's one thing.
What did Dylan say about silence?
Oh my God, we'll go deep into it. But I mean, the two are, Roscoe Mitchell said silence is perfect, and Dylan said experience teaches us that silence terrifies the most.
Oh.
And then Monk said silence is the loudest sound in the universe.
And
so yeah. I mean, it's endless. I don't want to go into music.
I think Lennon even said something on one of the
John Lennon.
Yeah.
I'll look it up.
If we had more time, I would go find the record.
I'll look up the.
I think it's on the back of the record, "Shaved Fish," that greatest hits album that he had.
Okay, I'll look it up.
On the back, it says, "This a conspiracy of silence speaks louder than words."
Oh, I've heard that quote. That's
and he attributes it to someone called Winston O'Boogie, which is just like one of his own personal nom de plumes. You know?
Oh my God! Because you okay? If you brought up John Lennon, maybe I told you this. You know this one. John Lennon was shot by a kid who had Catcher in the Rye in his back pocket.
Yeah.
In that book, Salinger has Holden Caulfield say, when you read a good book, it feels like you're talking to a friend.
Wow.
In the $100 Beatles book, it literally says, when John Lennon read Finnegan's Wake, he said he felt like he was talking to a friend. That is a creepy connection. And who knows? Is that coincidence or synchronicity or whatever?
You know, you've brought me to another thing I wanted to talk to you about.
What?
Now, I know that McLuhan is very aware of Joyce, obviously, right?
Yeah.
He mentions him frequently. And I mentioned earlier that idea that in his chapter about the press, I thought maybe he would go into it even harder, you know, on the Joyce thing, but he didn't. It's fine. It's fine. Did McLuhan ever write about the Beatles?
He probably mentioned them. He talks about James Brown on Dick Cavett. He talks about popular music. I mean, we'll get into it, but yeah, you know, his kids were in the 60s, and so he was fans of Fireside Theater, who are the,
oh yeah,
you know, and so he knows about popular music. Specifically, it's not that hard to find out what he wrote, you know, by Googling it. But you know, it's like, what I want to figure out, like, where do you go next after understanding media? Because there's basically 22 books, and you know, I mean, it's being a Wakey, and the one you might do is Eric's book that he wrote with his dad, 10 Thunders of Finnegan, about the 10.
Well, yeah. No, I've read that book.
You have read that
McLuhan's book, the Roll of Thunder.
Yeah, you've read. Okay, you've read that book. Okay,
fantastic book.
But out of the other 22 Marshall books, Understanding Media, have you read any others?
No.
Okay, you might go into War and Peace in the Global Village. Has a Wake quote on every other page, and it costs you, you know, it's like $10. It's a picture book, you know, and that's a good one. But the one that's sort of hidden that you might explore, which again is hard to read, is called Take Today, the Executive as Dropout. So in 1972, when hippies are just dropping out and actually becoming yuppies, 72. They're crossing over from marijuana to cocaine and being capitalists. He goes, take today the executive as dropout. And that has a few Joycean, that has some Joycean gems in it, you know.
Yeah, well, also just that what I said before about how it describes our current world.
Yeah.
I mean, just I mean, come on, that's exactly our world right now.
That is executive as dropout.
I mean,
that
take our fearless leader.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? I mean, come on.
Yeah.
Fearless leader and Elon Musk. I mean, the dropout as executive can never be more vibrant.
Dude, he went on Rogan and smoked pot and brags about his.
Come on.
You know, I mean,
basically like if Scooby Doo and that they became president. You know what I mean?
Well, that's it. You know, I always said once they ran Reagan, we should have ran Oprah. And now that they fired Colbert, we should run Colbert for president. He's awake.
I was just if Stephen Colbert had run in 2016 or whatever, we would be living in a different world.
Yeah.
This need to understand the medium, I think we can say that Trump understands what he needs to understand. I mean, I'm not. Don't get me wrong here, man. I'm just saying that, like.
No, what you're saying is,
you know what I mean.
It's articulated by Andy Warhol and Marshall McLuhan when they said art is anything you can get away with. And my friend said, that sounds like Trump.
Yeah.
It's like anything you can get away. Totally.
Look, I mean, don't you feel that there's like this gut feeling sometimes, like that that they'll win? Like sometimes like you just know it. Like a friend of mine one time. This is just bear with me. I won't go on too long, but like a friend of mine once here in Manhattan caught a ride with someone, and the guy driving the car was Trump's driver.
Yeah.
Okay. And this is back in 2015. And they were talking about it, and they got talking with the driver. And the driver was telling you, like, I guarantee you he's going to win. I guarantee you. And he was right, and this realization of the dominance is very palpable. I am I'm really an anti-Trump guy. Yeah. But like when I read some things that I just read today, I can admit that like some of the news, I can sense him altering the statement. I can sense him manipulating the media.
Totally.
To the point where he is, that word we used before, collapsing, imploding.
Yep.
The space between the delegation of authority and the authority of knowledge has been so compressed now to the point where we don't need to hear from anyone else. We just need to hear from the top.
Yeah. Top down.
And that is, unfortunately, as democratic as it might sound, it's a dangerous situation. Because I'll just speak for myself. I mean, my day by day, minute by minute, hour by hour ability to dissociate my emotional state from my thinking state is not so great. You know, I might overreact to any situation. I might, I mean, look, I'm guilty. You know, I'll act like a jerk this morning, you know, to someone that you know, and then later on feel repentant, you know,
Yeah.
or regretful or not.
Yeah.
And Trump is that way too, but Trump has the power to communicate with me in a way that collapses this idea of delegation of authority into delegation of just his current swing of things. And
you know, Chris, it's a lot of the system, and
too much. So it's overwhelming. It's overwhelming.
It's called cult of personality, but it's also the system. Because if you watch Errol Morris's documentary on Rumsfeld, it's like you're listening to McLuhan. It's like you're listening to McLuhan. It's like you're listening to McLuhan talk for 90 minutes. I was like, this guy. And then the big one is Steve Bannon. I mean, 5-8 years ago, Steve Bannon said Trump is the most McLuhan-esque president we ever had. I says, every president is McLuhan-esque. Then he said,
Bannon said that?
Oh, yeah. Bannon's dropped McLuhan's name several times. Bannon is not dumb, but he used to sell Michael Moore's VHS. He made money from Seinfeld. I mean, Bannon is and there's 2 documentaries on Bannon that reveal a lot. So anyways, it is this system.
That's wild stuff.
No, and it's this system of who controls the information we get, and then how do we whittle it down and figure out what we want to believe. And the word believe has the word lie in it. But why don't we close out with this one? These 2, because this will sort of sum us up.
Please make it 2.
I'll do it. And this is, tell me someone within your immediate family who had an impact on you, and what specifically was that impact?
Okay, I will tell you something. The first thing that came to mind, okay, my daughter Penny, she's 16. And this last year, she had such a direct impact on my life. That I can tell you about it. I told you earlier in our discussion that I'm a 4th year teacher here in New York City, right?
Yeah.
Which others who know about that will understand that means that this is my tenure year, right? So tenure essentially equates to being more or less job security and things like that. But it's a little mysterious in terms of what you actually have to do to get it.
Yeah.
4 years, and now you're supposed to apply, right? How that really should go down is it's up to you. You present something, to your school's principal. Your principal approves it, and then that goes on to the superintendent, and the superintendent approves it or not.
Yeah.
My daughter Penny was very insightful for me in terms. I let her look at my portfolio, and she revamped it entirely and completely changed the surface of it, where I think maybe I would have gotten my tenure one way or the other, but her ability to translate my ideas into the current generation's understanding of what things are supposed to look like was, I don't know. It's the first thing that came to my mind.
Well, it's a reflection of how you
aesthetically, I consider myself a person who is thoughtful. I consider myself aesthetically engaged, but she really showed me how I was not aware of certain things. And she really, really opened my eyes. And I really, if she ever watches this video, I just want to say, Penny, I really thank you, because I don't know if I would have gotten my tenure without you. And, I bow to your infinite wisdom as my child.
That is beautiful, because it's a reflection of how you raised her too. Because there's something.
Well, she's much wiser than I am in these areas. Yeah.
Yeah. But there's DNA, there's nature and nurture. So now, Chris, that was really good, because I like when most people will answer my parents and tell them what they got from their parents or their grandparents or their uncle. But
no, my child.
My question is, the follow-up is, outside your immediate family, someone who had an impact on you, and what specifically was that impact?
One of my primary guru in my life is a songwriter named Jack Hardy, who passed away I guess about 14 years ago. He's a monumental, pretty preternaturally talented songwriter. I mean, it's almost uncanny, his ability. He is also influenced by Irish literature. He's more into Yeats than Joyce, but he knows his stuff. I know I'm talking about him as if he's in the present tense, but he did die about 13 years ago. I think of him definitely daily, if not more frequently than daily. He was a personal teacher of mine in terms of not only writing, but also as a way to live. And I would recommend anyone who's into any kind of maybe folk music or anything like that, just to check out his original music. Jack Hardy. He also is kind of the godfather of the lower Manhattan songwriting scene in a lot of ways that I don't think has historically been documented enough. But in the last 50 years or so, Jack Hardy honestly was the dawn of the lyrical artistic movement in lower Manhattan. I mean, all the voices of Sean Colvin, Suzanne Vega, all those people, they all came through Jack Hardy. Even in Suzanne Vega's song "Tom's Diner," you know that song?
Yeah. Oh yeah.
You know, at the very end of that song, when she says, "I am dreaming of your voice," and the midnight picnic long before the. So my friend Jack would always say, by the way, when she says, "I'm dreaming of," that's my voice, and the midnight picnic on the roof is the thing that we did. Like that's about Jack.
Oh, know? How cool!
And myself and many other people will say that Jack Hardy was the Guruji of their selves as artists.
Yeah, that's a pretty good high thing, Gurdjieff. I love it. And just the people
Gurudev.
You know, I just saw the documentary on Jeff Buckley.
Yeah. Oh, I didn't see this. I saw the little link for that.
Yeah.
I didn't see, yeah.
And was he playing in a lower Manhattan bar? There's some bar he played in that he got famous in. Anyways, I don't know if it was lower Manhattan.
I'm not sure.
Yeah.
I know Jeff Buckley, especially for his wonderful cover of that Leonard Cohen song, Hallelujah.
Hallelujah.
Yeah, I mean, Leonard Cohen is
well, basically,
we talked so much about Dylan earlier, but I mean, you could basically say there's two branches,
Yeah.
Either on the Dylan side or the Leonard Cohen side, but I think there's three branches. There's the Jack Hardy side as well. That is just
nice.
Not. I think Jack is, just as within scripture, there are the apocryphal books.
Yeah.
I think that Jack is an example of that. That within pop culture, there's the apocryphal. apocryphal pulp culture, basically. And
Yeah.
outside of Dylan and Cohen, there's Jack Hardy. There's other people of that level. Who am I
John
thinking?
Prine.
John Prine, sure. Phil Oakes.
Phil Oakes.
You know what I mean? Lavin, Caffeine Lavin, all those people that are, I mean, who's Dylan's paramour?
Dave Van Ronk.
Well, Dave Van Ronk, of course.
Yeah.
And Dave Van
Or
Ronk.
Woody, you mean Woody Guthrie or Pete Seeger?
Well, when I said paramour, I really meant all of them, but who's the woman? I'm just blanking on her name right now. The folk singer, Joan Baez.
Oh, Joan Baez.
All those people. Yeah. No, you're right. I mean, of course, like Woody Guthrie.
Yeah.
Dave Van Ronk.
Yeah.
I mean, I only because you asked about this, Gerry, but because of Jack Hardy. So Jack was good friends with Dave Van Ronk, and Dave Van Ronk learned about songwriting from Jack. I mean, like there are these places where it's hard for us to understand the source of art. I mean, like it could be an anonymous source.
Oh yeah.
It could be James Clarence Mangan. It could be Mangan, and Joyce seems to kind of amplify on Mangan.
Yeah.
It's not. I sometimes if you read some of those essays that Joyce writes about Mangan,
yeah,
it almost seems like maybe it's kind of like imagining a couple things.
But that's it. If you plant the seed and it helps them get going, you could say, hey, this guy got me going, and it's not necessary. Right. But I want to get it clear. His last name is spelled Harvey or Hardy?
Hardy.
DY, yeah, okay.
Jack Hardy. And in fact, you should listen to one. Speaking of Mangan, you should listen to Jack's song called "The Nameless One."
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, this has really been good. I learned a lot, and I'm going to definitely check out Jack. I got to say, one of my favorites in regards to what you were saying at the end was both James Brown and Bob Dylan say one of their biggest influences was Gorgeous George, a white gay wrestler from LA. And the hidden ground for all the great comedians was Lord
Dylan
Buckley.
said that.
Dylan also said, I owe all my success to Lord Buckley. And Lord Buckley, if you don't know him, he is the hidden ground for all the great comedians. George Carlin, Lenny Bruce. It's endless. And so that's what I like when we find these people who are, he was a jazz shaman. These people who are like not known, but they influenced a lot of people. It's really fun to get that deep.
That's where it's at.
Yeah, that's where the deep.
And then it can sometimes be a little depressing. I mean, like you think like, well, I think I know about something, and then let's take like Roy Benjamin, for instance.
Oh, Roy's an amazing guy.
So like for instance, he just knows more about whatever it is I mentioned. So like, or I don't know. I don't know the way to say it. Like, you think you're going to write a book or something, right? Or whatever it is. That seems so hard. It seems so hard to do. Yeah. And then you go to the library and you see how many books there are, and you see how so many people were able to do it, and how you were never able to even think about reading all of those things.
Yeah.
That's the way it is talking to Roy or somebody like that. It's
Roy's.
You know what I mean? Like, it's like, okay, well, Maybe I should just keep on talking to people rather than write something.
Well, someday in our future salon,
who cares what I have to write?
Yeah.
We'll just put it out on YouTube and that's it.
Well, that's the beauty of these salons, is that we can just spontaneously talk and exchange enlightenment, because I got a lot of it from you today, Chris, and I appreciate it. And in future,
what could be better? What could be better?
In future salons, we can get into music and definitely get into the wake and Joyce, because I appreciate all your input at the New York Wake. I always learn a lot there. So even though I'm going to hit the end broadcast button now, I hope this never ends and we keep talking forever and ever, because that's what it's about. Eternity, as Lord Buckley says, dig eternity.
Satnam.
Thank you so much, Chris.
Yeah. Thank you, man.
Okay. We'll see you next time.
Right. Later.
All right.